more try, life could be much sweeter. From the time we analyze just what was the problem. Yes, we start making very positive moves to solve them. We fired the old set of managers we had working, and it's a new group we went and we bring in. And if the goods we require, them new managers not supplying. When election time come back wrong, it's new ones we bring in. But if it's one thing about my people, I could guarantee that they would never ever put party before country. I know the country facing its darkest hour, and our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, it have one little thing that I want you always remember. We could make it if we try, just a little harder. If we just give one more try, life would be much sweeter. The treasury was full and happy time some was enjoying. It's in over and Lavantin for people was living. Now the treasury flat and the country come back to square one. Poor people remain on the same old ghetto injunction. But to get the economy return today on some footing, if the same poor people 10 days and cola they're taking. And without social unrest, poor people paying the price, because they know for the cost. Anytime that we hear Trimbago is facing a crisis, as loyal citizens it's our duty to stay and accept. For we know to ourselves there could never become a day we're not deaf to this country we can't repay. So, but while outside I want you to have some consideration that your country of course facing its worst day in history. And we must do what we can, regardless where we may be. Our country facing its darkest hour, and our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever we feel to surrender, it have one little thing that I want we always remember. We could make it if we try a little harder. If we just give one more try, we could make it if we try, just a little harder. If we just give one more try, more try, more try, life could be much sweeter. We could make it if we try, 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 just a little harder. So our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, it have one little thing that I want you always remember. We could make it if we try, just a little harder. If we just get one more try, life could be much sweeter. From the time we analyze just what was the problem, yes, we start making very positive moves to solve them. We fire the old set on managers we had working, and it's a new group we went and we bring in. And if the goods we require, them new managers not supplying. When election time come back wrong, it's new ones we bring in. But if it's one thing about my people, I could guarantee that they would never ever put party before country. And the country facing is dark, is sour, and our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, it have one little thing that I want you always remember. We could make it if we try, just a little harder. If we just give one more try, life would be much sweeter. The treasury was put, some was enjoying. It's in over and laugh until poor people was living. Now the treasury flat and the country come back to square one. Poor people remain on the same old ghetto in dungeon. But to get the economy return today on some footing, if the same poor people 10 days and cola they're taking, and without social unrest, poor people paying the price. Because they know for the country, nothing too much to sacrifice. And if the country facing its darkest hour, so our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, it have one little thing that I want you always remember. We could make it if we try, just a little harder. If we just give one more try, life would be much sweeter.
Yes, indeed. A pleasant good night to all and sundry. It is, yes, indeed. Well, yes, of course, you know what it is. I don't have to say, but just in case you forget, is the Tuesday edition, of course, of the Corridor Transformation, and your host, of course, Lennox Smith. A lot of noise inside of here tonight. Pretty cold as well. I think the air conditioner is working well. But that being as it may, in order for that to continue, it costs money. And therefore, what we know we cannot depend on is, of course, a brutish, cruel, evil set of persons who are now in government, who would revel, who will ingratiate in their own vanity by, of course, stealing blood money for the construction of that monstrosity called Balizé headquarters or the PNM headquarters. A bunch of gangsters, and they will revel, and they will also, of course, ingratiate themselves, eat well, and forget the rest of the population. Well, we say to them, jettison, get the hell out, you empty vessels making plenty noise. Yes, indeed. We can make it if we try.
We try just a little harder. If we just give one more try, that could be much sweeter. So the treasury broke and they say that reset and jamming. So no foreign countries really start migrating. So the treasury broke and they say that reset and jamming. So no foreign countries really start migrating. So the treasury broke and they say that reset and jamming. So no foreign countries really start migrating. They lose faith in the country, they say we gone down the drain. They say no more could we see happy times again. But the will to recover in my people like have confidence. Although many may seem to feel that I talk it nonsense, but the majority of we decide we're not going to run, because now is the time to show we patriotism. For we country facing is that is our, so our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, it have one little thing that I want you always remember. We could make it if we try just a little harder. If we just get one more try, that could be much sweeter.
When a government betrays the people that elected it. This government is so dishonest that it shut down all of the agencies that give statistics on its own progress. They don't want you to know how bad the situation is. But the Moody's rating agency knew how bad. It downgraded the credit for Trinidad. And just a few days ago, the largest commercial bank has now reduced the amount of revenues of US dollars. But the people of Trinidad, they don't need a bank or a rating agency to know how bad the quality of life has been in the last few years. Hundreds of businesses shutting down or going out of business. The national budget wildly out of balance. More people going without food or shelter than any time in the last 20 years. Children going hungry. Hundreds of people thrown out of work. Thousands of people can't find a job. And a people who, rather than living in peace as we were promised, are more divided than ever. Region against region, class against class, the haves against the have-lesses and the have-nots.
Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley. The Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, you serve the more than 1.5 million citizens of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Most notably, you have continued to strengthen the partnership between Trinidad and Tobago and the
Of course, I wanted to start a pleasant good night to all and sundry, East, West, North, South, Central, or friends of Tobago, and wherever you are, streaming on the World Wide Web. I want to start with this. Because, of course, I want to show you a pattern of behavior, another side of Dr. Rowley's evil agenda. Never solely and totally in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago, because he's a narcissist and an impressionist and a conman and a criminal, a miscreant, and, of course, the scum of the earth. So what he has used his educational achievements And he has combined it. He has commingled it. He has mixed it with the brutal acquisition of power in Trinidad and Tobago, and having achieved the position of Prime Minister, and having failed the population time and time again from a commencement, and we can classify or we can identify that failure. His very first project that was supposed to bring Trinidad and Tobago up to today, over $500 million a year annually. And in fact, it is no longer on the agenda of the PNM or this Prime Minister. He led the charge. He was, of course, the one exposing Trinidad and Tobago to it and giving us fanciful, sometimes more than fictitious, pie in the sky, illusionary, but very, very, at that time, convincing that he could move mountains. I suppose we know now because he believes that as a volcanologist and a geologist, he can move mountain. The fool that we know he is. But he told us 500 million a year. That project was supposed to bring to Trinidad and Tobago. And he went further to tell us that it is the government's position of diversifying the economy. Yes. Today, he is absolutely reliant now on whatever fragment there is of oil, gas, and petrochemical. But when he was in 2015 selling us those, what we know now as pipe dreams and insincerity and innuendos and taking us for fools. And he went up, of course, to St. Augustine. And instead, of course, giving us some solid policies and programs, he would attack, of course, use the opportunity to attack the ground report. Yes, he attacked the ground report as one of his first missions in St. Augustine in 2015, after coming into government and gaining the position of a prime minister, the curse that he is. And he said that he was, of course, in some vehicle and that it had a radio station on and it wasn't his favorite station, but it was playing in that car, and it's about the mother and the father, and he raped this and he raped that. Well, we had to tell him over and over that we never spoke about his father. You ever heard me talk about his father or his mother? We talk about him and say categorically, as I am saying tonight, he's a blasted rapist and a pedophile. That is all we would have said. But since then, he was attempting, of course, to postpone the inevitable. I say postpone, even though it has taken us 9 years to recognize who Rowley really is, and that there are some people, because of their tenacity and because of their conviction and because of their willingness to go the extra mile and to take the ridicule and to take the castigations and to, of course, be tenacious in their will and purpose to expose people like Rowley today. Everybody and anybody is now calling him a rapist and a pedophile. Well, I started that venture when it was extremely unpopular because he had now gotten the office and people were giving him some, of course, leeway, some, of course, what is called some time to breathe and to, of course, settle down. But we knew that the man ought not and cannot benefit from such luxuries because he is brutal, he is wicked, he is nasty, and having been, of course, having committed rape of a school child, he being a teacher, we knew then he has no morals, no ethics, and no standards, and no values, as he would, of course, at every opportunity, anybody that he believes that he don't like or has a different view. We are seeing today, Kojo, a man who defended Rowley to the hilt, is now saying that he ain't no damn good. We will read excerpts of Kojo's statement to the media as well. Professor Kojo, yes, the man who says he's a black man and all things black is superior, probably. Maybe you might want to call him a racist. I don't think so. Otherwise, you'll have to call, of course, a former head of the Hindu movement, if you want to call it that, Satmaraj, a racist. No, he's not a racist. He is, of course, seeking the interests of those persons that happen to be not only of his ethnicity and his color of skin and texture of hair, in a society that gives place for everyone to have an equal place. That is what our national anthem says. So when Kojo speaks about passionately about the African, it is because he is doing the same thing as Satmaraj is doing. So I cannot, of course, accuse any one of them of being racist. They are, of course, seeking their interests in a society that has multiple interests, but also has a respect for multiple interests and the equilibrium and the equality of all within the society in this cosmopolitan Trinidad and Tobago. The point I am making is that Dr. Rowley went up to St. Augustine, and in talking about diversification of the economy, he used the opportunity to castigate and call, of course, those presenters on Ground Report. He called them, of course, or should I say he called us, because clearly he was referring to us as well. When, of course, he said that we have known felons. That dog, you understand why I have a defense in that and all to take it to the court when it becomes necessary, when that time comes. And it will come. So he was there. But he told us that apart from that, the diversification of the economy, the foray will be into tourism. And then, of course, he unleashed the Sandals project. Where is it today? $500 million we were supposed to get. But instead, he's looking to scrape the bottom of the pockets and the purse and the fob and whether it's back pocket, front pocket, side pockets of the ordinary person who has a fixed salary, by imposing, of course, not only higher fuel costs and therefore transportation and everything under the sun in Trinidad that you can think of. Prices would have gone up, but also is now prepared to introduce property tax. Not now prepared, sorry. He has the all clear, but he wanted to do that long before that, by skullduggery, by deception, by shortcuts. Yes. And then, of course, he is now talking as well as he hinted about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. Hinted, but now it is a poignant and almost burgeoning reality. Imposition of increased electricity, water rates, and we can go on and on. Only lucky there's no tax on air. Otherwise, he taxed that too. That is the kind of evil we have. But he promised on, of course, putting pain and ache in typical Machiavellian style and traumatizing the people of Trinidad and Tobago by taxing them out of existence if he had the will so to do. But no, we are a resilient people. We are a committed people. We are Trinbagonians. And therefore, none like Rowley, a pink donkey he will have to produce before he can ever tire the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and persons like myself and you out there who are committed every night, every day, and of course on your knees, genuflecting, and of course praying and praying, because we know that there is evil around, led by Rowley and his bunch of misfits and miscreants. And as we know, birds of feather flock together, and therefore, if that is applicable to those miscreants and those forte thieves, those Alibabas and followers, then of course we have to know that the same principle applies to us, and therefore as good people, as reasonable people, as patriots, we must coalesce, and we must organize, and we must pool our resources in order to fight the evil, and with the assurance that the evil could never prevail. In other words, good always prevails. And so he castigated the ground report in those circumstances, and as usual, the habitual and pathological liar that he is, the man has constant bouts. It appears that it is endemic in his cabinet and those who are close to him. The man, a constant, what I consider to be plague of mythomania, spontaneous lying, mendacious, and their prevarications have no boundary, all of which are lies and lies upon lies. So we know that Sandals was a figment of his imagination to project some kind of importance and to tell us, as we saw, of course, in his current trip, where he went, of course, to the United States and sitting down with the Secretary of State there. We are going to, of course, unveil the genesis of that, having laid the foundation. So what he does, he comes up with these phantasmagorical schemes to, of course, hoodwink and deflect, and then promote himself as some kind of guru. But of course, we know is a devilish guru, is one that is nestled in the feeling that he's some kind of demigod, half human, half God. But in this case, you cannot use God in the same sentence with Rowley. You have to say it's half human and half devil, if not the totally devil personified. Yes, indeed. So a pleasant good night, of course, once again. And please, of course, you're invited to call whenever you wish. During the course of the program, of course, we are here until 10 o'clock, 337-6940, 337-6940. So I thought it was important, and I want to tell you, how does that relate to that agenda and his presence in the United States now? Well, Rowley used CARICOM to get close, of course, to the Americans. After, of course, falling out of grace, albeit under Trump, by, of course, gravitating towards Maduro, and not on any occasion at all where there's a distinct decision to make, choice to make. He either remains apparently neutral, but in itself, based on his conduct, gravitating to the Maduro administration. Relevant. All governments in Trinidad and Tobago must have their eyes, as the public interest will dictate and require, have their eyes on the border gas. And that has been so before Rowley came into being. Undermining and under, of course, Kamala Prasad Bisesa. So that's a given, but always have been. He is not unique to that. But his conduct in terms of abandoning the Americans and, of course, gravitating in such a way so as to anger the Americans. We could only think about that shipment of gasoline that ended up in Venezuela, when, of course, Venezuela was by that time sanctioned. Of course, they were sanctioned under Rowley administration. When he came into government, we have to adjust. So he could have gotten us in trouble as he brought Delcy Rodriguez here, the vice president. The Third World War could have started at the Piaco airport when he allowed that plane to come in at a time when nothing was supposed to come in under COVID. Having, of course, that itself, he mismanaged, and, of course, he miscalculated. Because, of course, when everybody was saying, the opposition was saying, please test, he and his lunatic minister of health, Diaz Singh, was saying that God is a Trini and that the virus wouldn't come here. Well, boy, you have experience. You know what transpired to the point where a state of emergency, of course, was instituted. So you know, and shamelessly, they come in your faces and propose new initiative as if they are not tired of projecting optimism that turns out to be pessimistic dreams of people who are totally incompetent, but of course projecting as much as possible, hoping that they will strike, hoping that they will be successful. But because of the lack of planning and the fact that these initiatives are not genuine and they have not been worked out to the nitty-gritty towards the objective, they always have failed under this administration. And those so-called diplomacy joints will also fail because they are not genuine. They are not genuine. Let's go straight, of course, to the lines one time. Pleasant good night. It's taking a little time now. I understand the system is a bit slow. Pleasant good night. Let me see if I have it. Let me see if I have it. All right. Caller, call back. We have lost that. Let's see. All right, good. All right, good. Let's go. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Welcome. I'm seeing your sister. I'm seeing you on the line. A pleasant good night.
Good night.
Yes, a pleasant good night. Welcome.
Yeah. Lennox Smith, you might know I the guy who called that some time ago and said when Rowley goes to you.
Oh. Well, look, as though I had to sue him. I sent him a pre-action protocol letter already about 4 months now. I'm waiting for the 5th or 6th month before.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you, loud and clear. I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
All right.
Are you hearing me?
I listen.
All right, okay.
I listen and you all on the ground.
All right, okay. All right, so all right. Just let me respond to you. I said that in response to your question or your statement that you are the guy who asked the question whether when Rowley will sue me. Well, I told you that since he has not done it as yet, I have sent him a pre-action protocol letter about 5 months now, waiting for about 5 to 6 months before, of course, I take the formal action of depositing the information in the courts so that we can start a true trial to get from him what he doesn't want to face. You see, these ugly, evil people, they do things and want to pretend that they're holier than thou and want to be in places where they ought not to be because of their evil. Professor, good night. Welcome. Are you hearing me? Professor, good night.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Loud and clear?
Yes, yes, loud and clear.
All right. Lennox, well, you know you're talking about favorite person.
Yes.
Usually in Patriotism.
Yes, yes, yes.
That man would make a good psychic. Because everything that he said is exactly what Rowley and everything just done. Right? But Lennox, want to talk about the elephant in the room.
Go ahead.
Right? Because we know we have an elephant in the room.
Yes.
I am asking tonight. Right? Was it Barry Boutram who started spreading the rumor that Andy had died?
Well, I heard it from you this morning, and I would not doubt.
Just before that came out. Yeah? Just before that came out, right? He was just saying that Rowley should go look up for you and Andy. Right for back talking him. He come again this morning and he lied on you, Lennox. He lied on you because I know you did not say Andy's in a critical condition.
Of course, of course.
I know you say that. Right? And you know why disturbing me, Lennox? Because Andy's our friend. Andy's our friend. And if Andy is there, we should be standing up and supporting him. Not do that what Barry Goodwill doing. About Rowley takes the weakness of the government. Did Rowley and his ministers wean themselves of the government, Lennox?
Of course not.
Through the freedom of information, we saw through the freedom of information. Well, at that time, 2 years ago, was 500. I am sure about the 1,000 now. But as recusal for it to benefit friends, family, and financiers. Through that, we look at that young brother became a billionaire. His father may be almost there already. Right?
Yes.
Look at how much recusals let off. Look at what they did with the procurement bill. They butchered it. To take up everything for houses, medical, everything. And they want to talk about weakness and what is going on. Is Rowley and his ministers weaning anything? How was Rowley able to buy Island Gate? Because from what I get to understand, like he only for Island Gate. I start to become a but only coming to tell us that we know what's up with the government. You come around and drop it off. That's some people. And then he comes with the line and saying that they have not implemented the electricity rate and they're thinking about it. You know, from the time we say they're thinking about it, they come in.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Like a thief in the night.
The man is a liar. Yes. I don't know. And imagine that I have an article where his stepsister, Ruth Courtney, is saying that they grew up with a grandfather telling them that lying lips are abomination to the Lord. So apparently they didn't pound it in him either. What lying lips does. And you know, Lennox, well, he gets in one shot now with his dragon beat. And you know he's coming back into blame camera.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
Because that is usually when a man suffers from low testosterone level.
Of course, of course. Yeah, extreme inferiority complex. That is what happened. Yeah, yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yes, yeah. Mikey had a really nice interview tonight with Ted Ali.
Okay.
Ted Ali laid it on the table about his strategy.
Good.
You know, it was really, really interesting. And look at all the things that Simon Cutler said about it too.
Oh yes, I intend to
I just
know that.
These people take that to the voting booth. take it into fucking book because these people need to leave office. We are totally fed up with them. And before I leave Lennox, I want to say, now Gary Griffith is the political leader of the NC, right?
Yes.
They've had an accommodation with the UNC. They have an accommodation with the UNC. Okay, they put out a press release about maybe having their own crime talks. They are a separate party. What is wrong in that? Maybe the UNC will go to the south. They will go down in the east, take the east-west corridor. Who knows?
Yes.
But you see, there are mischief makers out there.
Of course.
And we know the media.
News, yes.
We know the media. How they are. Are you hearing me, Lennox?
Loud and clear, loud and clear, loud and clear.
All right. Now we know the media is not UNC friendly, so they will not be NTA friendly. And I want to just give a little advice. Instead of jumping to conclusion and hurting all your body parts, try reading the article. Try understanding, because everybody will have a different meaning, a different understanding thing. Don't look at it as the glass half empty. Look at it as the glass half full. Because you see, right now, what's going on in this country, we cannot afford for division. We cannot afford all this nonsense. Because united we stand and win, and or divided PNM we're going to win. Right? So instead of coming and spewing us such a nonsense about Gary this and Gary that and Gary that, oh good God, take your time and read it now. You see, that is what happens in the situation we are in today, Lennox.
Yes.
Ignorance.
And
when you don't read and understand, you just spew ignorance.
Yeah.
Lennox?
And presumptuous, yes.
Yes. Thanks a lot for listening to my 2 cents, and have a good night.
Yes, and as you normally would say, external, of course, contributor to the corridor transformation, you would normally say that elections have consequences. And the next election, if we do not do what we know is right, all of us in this, of course, vessel called Trinidad and Tobago, with tremendous potential, our cuckoo is cook. In other words, we are sinking now. Well, of course, we may well end up at the bottom of the ocean. So let us, of course, limp to the nearest port of call and do the repairs. And the first thing we do is to, of course, to give life to that analogy, to give life to that figurative expression, is that, of course, we inculcate what is the reality of Trinidad and Tobago, the incompetence, impotence, evil, and the wickedness and self-aggrandizement and the abuse of office and our resources by Rowley and his incompetent bunch, who believe that they can lie their way to the next elections and, of course, prevail. Well, we must make certain that we are the ultimate adjudicators. We did it, of course, in 1986. We did it in 1995. We did it in 2000. We did it, of course, in 2010. We will do it again in 2025. And, of course, they have already been ejected and rejected in Tobago only recently. And in the already seen a waning PNM that cannot, of course, regain the dominance that it once had, as it continues, of course, to be emaciated and be, of course, reduced and downgraded. And I expect ultimately that it must be relegated to the dustbin of political history in this country, and our children and our future generations must read about them, because there can be no change. Anybody takes over, whether Rowley hint he wants to got and to, of course, evoke some kind of exchange from him, and he said it, that he inherit. I don't believe that. I believe he believes he said a third stone. Because when a man could take upon himself and say, I don't sleep in the night. I don't sleep in the night because it's painful to sleep. What all they go do without he? When I want to tell him, 5 years ago, 9 years ago, we could have done without you, Rowley, and we were doing fine. We were doing well. And if Kamala Prasad Bisesa, as you said, was where you are, you know, as you confess, was milk and honey will be flowing. That is what the man say. And don't get me vexed before I prove it, you know. Don't get me vexed. But the fact that for you, sycophants, of course, and those who still believe in a dribble, that a dribble exists. No, dribble doesn't exist. There is no elasticity, nor rigidity for a dribble. It is simply what it is. Very tenuous and will stretch until, of course, it is severed or burst. Yes, indeed, like a rubber band, in other words. So let us not waste time. But let me continue, of course, with the video that is on screen. On the screen. You see, I said, and I introduced that because I wanted, of course, you to realize the pain and ache and agony that was predicted by this blind fella. And then Rowley went up, of course, only last year to what I consider to be an orchestrated doctorate exercise at a university. The major players at that university are good friends of Rowley. And in fact, the person who would have pronounced the citation and to give him glory in his political achievements, unknown to us who are supposed to be governed or supposed to be patriotic and Trinbagonians, we don't know anything about what they're talking about. But obviously, he has to read what they gave to him, or he was intellectually and academically dishonest. If he put that together, because it is simply not true of what they spoke. But I suspect now that Rowley is up in the United States, that because Biden was also to be honored by that university, it was an chance. No, it is clear now. It's part of an elaborate conspirators orchestration. Yes, a choreographing to get Rowley to have a one-on-one with Biden outside of his official capacity as Prime Minister, but in an area where Biden will have to take note, and Biden did take note. So I am certain that Rowley's Trinidad and Tobago delegation to the United States, as we speak, for 2 days, I understand, is as a consequence of that foundation being laid and orchestrated in a way, because Rowley can't tell me that he didn't know that Biden was to be honored as well. That is impossible. I have been honored, and I would know, of course, the other honorees that would be attending and receiving awards, so he can't say so. And at least decency and common sense and protocol will, of course, allow the beneficiaries to be informed as to who are the others that are with them in terms of receiving awards. So let's get that straight. Rowley will come and tell you that he didn't know Biden would have been there. He will come and tell you that. And just as how it is impossible for them to accumulate in 12 years $100 million and counting to construct that monstrosity called Balizé House that they went, of course, and grovel and drink and eat and fraternize and, of course, and had this level of debauchery, whilst the rest of us, working class, either unemployed, fired, don't know where the next meal coming from, or cannot eat it properly. That was a a bizarre state of affairs last Sunday at Balize House on Tranquility Street, when its blood money, as I said, was used to construct that, and they must not be allowed to forget that it is blood money, and that is no benefit, because it means that all of you have participated, whether directly, indirectly, advertently or inadvertently, consciously or unconsciously, to that monstrosity and that theft and the depriving of the children and the children's children of the resources of the country for your personal and, of course, vanity agenda. Yes, indeed. We must let them know that. We must tell them we are not impressed. We are not impressed that could happen, because after 50 years, according to Rowley, 68 years, and he got the party to lead after 50 years. And after that 50 years that the party was in, and for one term alone out of government, didn't have a savings. It didn't put aside anything at all. So much so that they were in a state of bankruptcy when Rowley came in. Lucky for the party and for the property, he won the elections. Because if he didn't win the elections, then of course that 5 million that they were owing could have easily turned, because they had to pay light bills, they had to pay staff, etc., as according to Rowley, could have easily turned to about $7 million owing. But suddenly, as Rowley came in and as Prime Minister and giving out contracts, he is saying that he didn't get any kickbacks. And the people, the same people that was there when Eric William was there, when Chambers was there, all his predecessors, prime ministers, when Manning was there, the same people suddenly put up over $100 million to construct that monstrosity. But get the hell out of our faces now, man. You blasted thief, Rowley. Only one source, only one way you could have gotten that money, and therefore every single PNM today must feel ashamed of that building, because it is a symbol of waste, profligacy, theft, and blood money, because you are taking food literally from the children of the poor communities along the east-west corridor from Carolina to come right up to Toko, Sangigandi, and back down, of course, in Central, as well as Deep South, La Brea and Point 14. That is what you have done, and therefore that is what the reality is, and you should be ashamed to, of course, call that a headquarters. It has to be a blood-sucking entity, a monstrosity, and must not be concluded, must not finish. The other part, the 5-floor aspect of it, must not finish. It must remain there like a white elephant. A white elephant doesn't mean something salubrious. It means that it must be there in fallow. It must be there in inert. It must be there just sitting there to symbolize the theft, the corruption, the wickedness, the inhumane conduct of Rowley and his assembled bunch, who have no compunction and no compassion, and they go there and with our money they sip and they eat and they grovel and they coalesce, and they try to convince each other that what they have done is not a cardinal and unpardonable sin and an abomination to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, We must find the adjectives. We must, of course, tell it as it is. And that there is no way any one of us could feel proud to know that a 68-year-old party has had, of course, not only after 50 years, had to, of course, have a debt of over nearly $5 million, but had to steal in order, that pilfer, steal from the public's purse to construct that monstrosity. You must feel ashamed. Bend your heads. Bend your heads. Bend your heads and ask for forgiveness. Genuflect and bend your heads and ask for forgiveness for that monstrosity that of course, they wallow and they enjoyed and they fraternize and they promoted as some major achievement. No. Oh, from the jaws of victory, defeat was achieved because that is what they were building it up to. Oh, what an anticlimax. What an anticlimax. The thing that they thought would have been a symbol of joy has turned out to be another curse attributed to the PNM. That building. Let's get back, of course, to the prediction of this blind man predicting what Rowley would have done, what the PNM would have done. And we must, of course, see it for what it is, the evil. Let's get back, of course, to him. And later down the road, you will see where Rowley laid the foundation for being where he is today. Get close to Biden, make friends, even though, of course, they have him up the craw. But because of that personal, unavoidable contact that was set up, he was able, of course, to be where he is today. But that is ephemeral, that is temporary, just as that building that they have constructed will not finish. Yes,
You don't
indeed.
have to be born in Trinidad to know what it's like when a government betrays the people that elected it. This government is so dishonest that it shut down all of the agencies that give statistics on its own progress. They don't want you to know how bad the situation is. But the Moody's rating agency knew how bad. It downgraded the credit for Trinidad. And just a few days ago, the largest commercial bank has now reduced the amount of revenues of US dollars. But the people of Trinidad, they don't need a bank or a rating agency to know how bad the quality of life.
Let's go straight to the line. Pleasant, good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Yes. Good night. Yeah, loud and clear. Loud and clear. Yes.
Right. After the program?
Call back after the program. Yes. Yeah. I think we have something positive. It looked like. All right. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So let's go back, of course, to this blind man that was predicting how Rowley will operate.
Has been in the last few years. Hundreds of businesses shutting down or going out of business. The national budget wildly out of balance. More people going without food or shelter than any time in the last 20 years. Children going hungry. Hundreds of people thrown out of work. Thousands of people can't find a job. And a people who, rather than living in peace as we were promised, are more divided than ever. Region against region, class against class, the haves against the have-lesses and the have-nots.
Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley.
Well, this is where the honorary degree was handed to him, and you will see Biden Day and make a connection between that encounter, orchestrated clearly as it was, and where Rowley is today. But when they find out who Rowley really is, you will see it's just a delay, because the people of Trinidad and Tobago will make them know. I've already put pen to paper. I expect that people in the diaspora will also be writing your president, and to let them pay, even though the embassy here will be providing notes on Trinidad. I think you too have a duty to express your disapproval of this evil man and his dictatorial tendency and the abuse of office and our resources. Let's go straight, of course, to the lines. Pleasant good night. Pleasant good night,
Lennox.
Pleasant good night. Good
Night to you, Lennox, and everyone on the line.
Yes, good night to you.
Calling from Tobago East.
Yes, good night.
Yeah, you know one thing, Johnny Abraham, when he spoke last night on the meeting, the crime meeting, you know, he was very, very accurate in everything that he said. He was very at the point with everything that he said, and when you listen to him, that fella have a lot of good interest in doing and trying to help the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes. I don't know why Dr. Keith Rowley, sometime when he's ready to talk, he must put they must have a visor or something on him, or put a bit in his mouth, so that he wouldn't really talk the stupidness that he always talk. Because you can listen from, you know, he have a lot to offer, and instead of playing down him and coming on a platform in sour and talking all kind of nonsense, you know what I mean? Keith Rowley supposed attitude that he have, you know. He need to shut up sometime if he don't have nothing good to say. I mean, everything come out this man's mouth. Like, you know, he's a loose cannon. He just don't really fit to be a prime minister. You know, the man is fit at all to be a prime minister. Look at how Johnny Abraham talk. Why a prime minister cannot talk the way like Johnny Abraham talk? He's a prime minister. Everybody looking for betterment from you. You can't be behaving and carrying on this kind of fish market attitude that he have. He not by somewhere in Paria or Bloody Bay or one of them places selling fish. He need to overcome that in politics for too long to have that kind of nasty behavior. And nobody can talk the right thing. He just vindictive with everything that he do. You know, this country can't go nowhere for us like Keith Rowley and Columbine both and them, you know. We just stagnant here. 8 years now, them fellas are them in charge and ain't going nowhere. But you know something what I like, Lennox?
Go ahead.
I was listening to a video that was done in Italy where they have charged him for some of the deaths with the COVID-19. Yes, and a lot of other countries around the world going forward now and charging the people that was in charge of health in their country now for the amount of deaths. So sooner or later, Taranti Singh, he will have something else to shut his mouth for. Because somebody go end up suing him too sooner or later. All the misappropriation and everything that they do for that COVID-19 there. So sooner or later, he go have his mouth sewn up. Because they do too much of nonsense with that COVID-19. So all over the world, people taking action now. So let me see what will happen. All right, else we are listening off there.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And as it is said, it's well established, you cannot wait until the tree is grown before you try to bend it. So an old tree can't bend. It is also said, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, you have to be mad or you're totally stupid. Rowley clearly can't change. He like a scent. He can't change. He is immutable. As also said, I would hear my mother speaking these words. That of course, he's like a dog sucking egg and can't stop. All of those are attributed to him. What is required is that all of us must get rid, by way of our franchise, by way of our vote. We must pronounce, and 2025 must come. He could jump high, he could jump low, he could wish otherwise. And then, of course, everything else will be added on, including, of course, blue lights and silver bracelets that he liked to talk about. You know, the old people also have a saying: be careful what you wish for, particularly when you wish it for others. In other words, the hole you dig for others that is unjust, unmeritorious, evil and wicked, you may well fall into it. And yes, indeed, I must end by saying, oh, what a tangle web we weave when we first set out to deceive. And of course, Rowley and his minions are the epitome of such an, what I would consider to be not just an accolade, not just a saying, but it has manifested itself in more ways than one. So let's go straight, of course, back to what we are looking at. And then, of course, the professor, and then Biden, you will see there, and you'll understand why Rowley was able, of course, to ajar the gate in order to get where he is today. But with, of course, all of the baggage that clearly they are not yet aware of, to make him, of course, to see him as the plague, to see him as a leopard, a person to avoid, a person to dismiss, as we have decidedly.
The Honorable King Christopher Rowley, you serve the more than 1.5 million citizens of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Most notably, you have continued to strengthen the partnership between Trinidad and Tobago and the United States through our shared interests in many areas, including security, energy, education, agriculture, and the arts. During your tenure as chairman of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, you have emphasized this important partnership as well as the deeply rooted ties between the two countries, with numerous native-born West Indians living and contributing to the health and wealth of the United States and vice versa. Also, your enterprising efforts have fostered regional integration among Caribbean countries, including Barbados, Jamaica, and Guyana. The Republic of Trinidad and Tobago has experienced welcome growth. Government policies implemented to promote diversification, investments, and tax incentives for small business have increased the rate of economic growth. Energy reforms are also at the heart of your goals. The National Gas Master Plan promotes renewable energy sources to lessen the country's dependence on fossil fuels and encourages private investment to explore new gas and oil resources. During your tenure, quality education has also been a strong priority, with increased school funding as well as more opportunities for vocational training. Under the School Improvement Project, you renovated and upgraded facilities.
People, let's pause.
Likewise,
I'll pause for.
Oh, that person.
I've lost that one. Hello.
Community you represent. Such centers are crucial to the lifeblood of the citizens, with more than 40 open throughout the country since your first term in office. Infrastructure and healthcare have been central to the well-being of your constituents, with improved roads, better access to transportation, upgraded water and sewage systems, and expanded medical care. Your exemplary handling of the COVID-19 pandemic has been heralded for saving lives and lessening the overall spread as much as possible, thanks to your quick and incisive actions. Your steadfast progressive activism, visionary, purposeful dedication, and passionate commitment to humanity are the hallmarks that have marked your phenomenal servant leadership of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Howard University celebrates your living legacy of achievement and applauds you.
Of course, let's go to the lines. The punchline in that fictitious, should I say, biography. But go ahead, good night. Good night, go ahead.
Good night, how are you going, boys?
Well, you know how it is. I'm engaged.
That's what I was reading there.
Yeah.
That's what I was reading there, right?
Yeah.
Were you reading that from a West Indian reader? You reading from a West Indian reader or a fairy tale? Once upon a time.
Once upon a time.
Because half of them, all them things he's saying is untruth.
That's right. But
Yeah, it's some story, but a fable or something.
Yeah.
All this thing about divestment and education. What foolishness are you missing on education opportunity? Nobody has no divestment.
Yeah.
No formal investment in community here. Only in oil and gas,
Just hold on,
divesting.
There's somebody else saying that.
You understand?
Yes.
And you hear what the opposition leader said last night? When she was talking about these people who wasn't involved in Paria, Piper, and the next one named Mushtaq. She said they gave them an additional 2 years. An additional 2 years then for that having cited Lennox. That's how they reward people in the PNM. When they culpable for the deaths of these 4 divers, my God, no wonder that Smith got big work in America. They reward he too. And they say nothing going wrong in that party. It's them had this country upside down and running out give this. They give these fellas an extension at 2 years. That is ludicrous. Only in a green skin banana republic like China that go up, like 2 years, Corruption of the most. All because the managers of them fellas culpable. Them should be facing the music too. Have a good day, Mark.
Thank you very much. I don't know if you're getting some static there. Something might have happened in studio here, but let's continue.
You, as a shining example of our cherished core values, leadership, excellence, truth, and service.
Fellow honorees, Prime Minister Rowley, Prime Minister, I didn't know you were so talented. I just thought you were a foreign policies, Latin American guy. I just thought you were a foreign policies.
And let's go straight to the line. Pleasant good night.
Hello?
Yes, I hear you loud and clear.
Lennox, good night. Lennox, you hear lie? That is lie. Lennox, I wish you would put it up side by side with the things that man lied about and the things that Rowley actually did. One of the biggest lies there was the diversification of the economy. That man crushed the education system. Look at what he did with Patriotism and crushed the energy sector. And that man awarded him for cheaper for what he did in this country. I don't know why when they were putting it around his neck or wherever they were putting it on for him, it didn't burn him. I mean, like if it's water on holy water on Satan.
Yes. But just Biden.
Hear the man. When I listen to this thing again,
all that was for Biden. There's a set of Biden.
It should have been like sprinkling holy water.
Yeah.
But Lennox, let me tell you something. Somebody, I think he had asked to write the people and let them know how this man lied. This man lied and gave Rowley that award because Rowley gave him the order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
That's right. Reciprocate with keep it.
And that is why they give him that award. And you know, Lennox, he lied. He also lied in 2019 at the United Nations. And the Guardian, one of the newspapers, did an editorial that the way he talked here is as though he living in a fool's paradise. Because nothing he said here was the truth. And he come back again with this lie. Lord Father Jesus, I don't know when God ready for that man. It's Rick Mortis before them, you know.
Yeah.
Because the man lies too much and he stand up there. He stand up there and he lists all of that and that award, that doctorate. But then again, they must have had a lot given out, so they didn't know what to do with it.
No, it was designed.
That man.
The new
Not Rowley, you know.
the new
I'm
Biden was there.
the president.
Yeah,
But
so it was all
yeah,
that was
let off.
fashioned to treat with that.
I wonder what safety gets coming back to get boy. Let off.
Yeah.
I wonder what safety coming back to get.
I think the first after the elections, the first seat that Muscat lost will be Diego Martin West. He must lose that first thing.
All right, Lennox, have a good night.
Yes, same to you, my dear. Same to you. Yes, people, it is ridiculous. But as I said, you see how we could connect the dots. You see how we can cross the T's and dot the I's, not like Rowley doing the opposite. All of that was designed to get access to Biden, the Biden administration. And thus, of course, what is happening today. Do you see? He couldn't go there with a Trinidad per se delegation. He also rode the backs of the CARICOM delegation as well that advocated and supported, of course, the easing of the sanctions on Venezuela to get that license. But it appears to be all of that. You kick the pail down the road because Maduro is not an easy kettle of fish and an unstable fella. And therefore, just like him, will do nothing unless, of course, there's a personal aggrandizement. Rowley didn't do that because of Trinidad. Because of him, he believes that somehow he can do these things and get away with it. Brinksmanship. But the time will come. So I have put you in perspective as to how he ended up in the United States today. That does not take away other things that clearly he has not told us, but the United States are concerned about, and we'll see that unfolding too. Just as how he told us about sandals, and it turned out to be pie in the sky, and of course being thrown into sting and nettle, and therefore nettlesome circumstance. We must continue to, of course, recognize that the man is destabilizing Trinidad and that there is no hope in those kinds of overtures that he would have made. Gone to the United States after telling us some 5 different ways that he's prepared, of course, to treat with crime. All of government approach. Tell parents that they're sending monsters to school. Tell the churches that they should be doing more. Tell us that, of course, it is what a public health issue, and you could go to the pharmacy and get a tablet when a man point a gun at you, especially when he fired, and you will be all right. That kind of hogwash, and then of course blame the police, and then blame Gary, and then blame, of course, Johnny Abraham now, and tell him to shut up, and still tell us before he left that he will overcome the gang wars. When in fact they have escalated. In the face of they being escalated, he is telling us that he could overcome it. And he had the 1, 2, 3 opportunities, but instead it produced 3 record-breaking murders, statistics in Trinidad and Tobago. Let's go straight to the line. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Mr.
Good night to you.
I don't know how your life keep on dropping to breaking up tonight. It keep on disconnecting.
All right.
Regular. Lennox says I have a little concern. Concerning the Prime Minister's state event to Washington to see what business and gas deal or right. But what I tell him is how America could do business in a country like this when they had a commission of inquiry concerning them divers, and we know the outcome of it, and the government had taken no serious decision of even suspending these guys and showing the family some kind of remorse, you understand? or some kind of judgment. So this is what America is. And you know, in the oil and gas, you know, your safety is very paramount, right?
Yes.
In the wider world. And if America in Trinidad, in the oil and gas, and that is the kind of standard the government of Paria, the government franchise versus Paria is doing to citizens. How come America doing business with this country? It is kind of mind-boggling. And why we ain't seen a protest in front of the American embassy concerning this situation with these four divers? Dr. Smith, I have more to say about, we'll leave it at that tonight.
Very good point. But let us understand America first in terms of its foreign policy. I think the most recent, with respect to Venezuela, speaks volumes. Venezuela imprisoned several American citizens. Venezuela. Without, of course, any real reason, but they manufacture because they're there and they hold them and they're in the country. If America wanted to get them, they would have to use force, and that, of course, will create other unfortunate, if not unpleasant, outcomes. So what they did, they get a fellow called Alexa, a close right-hand man to Maduro, and they say they want him in America for money laundering and, of course, drugs, etc. And they indict him there. Yeah, they have an indictment. But behind the scenes, in order to get the American, that the Americans that the Venezuelan held there as a bargaining chip, they exchange him, even though he is needed in the United States on indictment, and exchange him for 10 Americans, including a fugitive, but American fugitive that was in Venezuela. I show you the policy position. You will notice as soon as the crisis between Russia and Ukraine came, and that gas line was severed, cut from Europe, servicing, of course, from Russia, the Americans had to find a supply for the Europeans, their allies, and part of NATO, all of them. So what they did, they find a way at the same time to soften their relations with Venezuela, because Venezuela sits on arguably the world's largest deposit of gas and oil, at least oil for sure. And then, of course, that is how Trinidad was able to get that license, and one or two companies, oil companies from the United States, Exxon, etc., they were able, of course, to start drilling for oil, again, of course, not for, but extracting oil from Venezuela. I painted the picture as to how American policy is configured, because it is about their interests, in other words. And if your interests as the beneficiary or the person or the country that is at the shitty end of the stick, that is your business. But they are doing things in their own interests. So, there you go. It means, therefore, if Trinidad and Tobago, as Stuart Young told the CNN, that they could provide gas, and that arrangement could be made because we have the infrastructure, no doubt. America knows that. At one time, we were supplying all of the gas to the United States at one time, yes. When the heat, when the winter season comes, and so on, in order, of course, to keep them warm. So we know that. So Biden and the policymakers would have known that. They have institutional knowledge to know that. And therefore, it is against that background they will tolerate Trinidad and Tobago and even the nonsense that Rowley is engaged in. Because remember, it was the ambassador that said when Stuart Young lied to the parliament He said the ambassador said in no uncertain terms that he did discuss Delcy Rodriguez with of course Stuart Young and the breach of the Rio Treaty that all of them are signatories to. Understand that. So those are some of the issues that I would want to, of course, address at this point in time. Yes, indeed. I have a... yes. Yeah, yes, indeed. Of course, I'm on air.
Lennox.
Yeah, I'm on air. I'm on air. I'm on air. I'll call you back after 10. I could call you back after 10?
I'll call you tomorrow.
All right, okay then. No problem. Yes. All right, thanks. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So there we have it. We have a situation where the Americans will act in their own best interests. And that is how the cards crumble. That is how they will operate, and that is how they will treat with matters. So it is against that background I thought I should explain that. So tolerating Rowley is a normal part of it. Not that they are not concerned, because Maduro still has a $15 million, of course, bounty on his head. Still has a $15 million bounty on his head. So that does not take away anything. They are acting in their best interest. Maybe Trinidad and Tobago should adopt a similar position rather than acting in somebody else's best interest. So I think that is sufficient. Let's complete this particular video.
No. I just follow that guy, American guy.
So let's start from here.
Training. Under the School Improvement Project, you renovated and upgraded facilities nationwide. Likewise, the number of community centers has expanded with a number of projects within the Digger Mountain community you represent. And such centers are crucial to the lifeblood of the citizens, with more than 40 open throughout the country since your first term in office. Infrastructure and healthcare have been central to
I understand that it's taking a little time, but let's go back here. Let's go to this call. Let's take this call. Pleasant good night. Welcome.
I'm sorry, I don't call back again.
Yes.
Yeah, I called just now there. Sorry, I don't call back so soon.
No problem.
I know the program, I wasn't up to date to the program, so I know with your earlier request, if you had mentioned that the statement coming out of America concerning Maduro banned the opposition from taking part in the election and the terms and conditions concerning the dragon deal, right?
Yes.
You aware about that?
Yeah. I'm aware. And that is creating some
right?
color the opportunity.
Yeah, right. You're aware about that. All right. So let me say Maduro listened to America and he said, all right, I will let the opposition take part, and the dragon gas deal is continue. They say in 2024, I think the license something up like that, and it's to renew.
Yeah, it's two.
Right?
It's two.
Right, to get to the point, right? To get to the point, right? To get to the point. Then we say all this thing come and settle, and the dragon deal is successful, and Trinidad agree and they sign off, right? But PNM lost the election.
Yeah.
What will the UNC? And I don't know. I don't want to talk for the UNC, but your expertise. Will the UNC continue doing business with Maduro? Locked on and listening.
Well, based on the statements made by the opposition leader, that's a very direct question. But it's clear no, because of course they would want to always be on the good side of history by being, of course, sympathetic to the American cause. It's clear, and of course, what one would have expected from Rowley, that he would have at least acknowledged the presence of the opposition in Venezuela by Guaido, who, of course, the most wealthy countries in the world were supporting at that time. And one would have expected that he would have been making statements like that, but he was clear. And the name of the American ambassador, he has something like the former mayor of San Fernando name, and a name like that. But the fact of the matter is that he said in non-certain terms that Trinidad and Tobago has shifted away from the United States, and of course the position they took at the OS and at the Rio discussions on and the decision on Venezuela gave that conclusion. But Rowley ought not to have acted. He didn't act in our best interest. He should have at least truly been midway, because he goes up to the United Nations and talk about Maduro in a different context to what, of course, the regional or the hemispheric condition is, and that is what is happening in Venezuela is affecting not only the surrounding countries, Brazil, Colombia, and even Central America and the Caribbean. So Rowley ought to have recognized that and go the way of the OAS, but he didn't. He abstained in both instances. But we could use that as a topic by itself. But of course, in the final analysis, America acts in its own best interest. That's the point I'm making. So tomorrow they could take a different position to one that they had the day before, and so on and so forth. But let's go straight. Let's go and finish off this.
Roads, better access to transportation, upgraded water and sewage systems, and expanded medical care. Your exemplary handling of the COVID-19 pandemic has been heralded for saving lives and lessening the overall spread as much as possible thanks to your quick and incisive actions. Your steadfast progressive activism, visionary, purposeful dedication, and passionate commitment to humanity are the hallmarks that have marked your phenomenal servant leadership of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Howard University celebrates your living legacy of achievement and applauds you as a shining example of our cherished core values: leadership, excellence, truth, and service.
Fellow honorees, Prime Minister Rowley, Prime Minister, I didn't know you were so talented. Latin American guy. I just thought you were foreign policies, Latin American guy. I just thought you were foreign policies, Latin American guy. I just thought you were foreign policies, Latin American guy. Latin American guy. We got to talk.
So there you have it, people. That is the orchestrated, choreographed way that he has found himself there. One of the things, of course, he wrote the back of CARICOM in order to, but unfortunately, it's always for self-aggrandizement. And of course, we have where he is now. We just have about 13 more minutes, so we probably could look at where he is now. And of course, he is thumbing his thumb, and of course, telling people, listen, I am on the world stage. Just as how he said that people were saying he's too black to be head of the PNM. Lies as usual. And then, of course, say, Budo, I am now, of course, the Prime Minister in spite of all the old talk. Well, we must tell him that he has failed, and he has, of course, disappointed. Give him all those opportunities to redeem himself. He's simply immutable. He cannot change.
Very good. Well, good morning, everyone. And it's a great pleasure for me to receive Prime Minister Rowley here in Washington, especially after the very warm hospitality I was shown in Port of Spain last year. Trinidad and Tobago is a vital partner for the United States, and we are working together in many areas, including to advance energy security and climate resilience, something that the people of Trinidad and Tobago feel very strongly. And we're doing this in particular under the United States-Caribbean Partnership to address the climate crisis, which is a vital initiative that our countries are engaged in. We're partnering as well to fight violent crime and firearms trafficking, and this is a priority for the work that we're doing, as well as, of course, seeking and building up prosperity and opportunity in the region as a whole. We have vital work that we're doing as well to address other regional challenges, whether it's in Venezuela or whether it's in Haiti, but in all of these areas and others, including the strengthening of our own bilateral ties, which I've been very, very pleased to see over the last couple of years. This really is a vital partnership, and I'm just grateful, Prime Minister, to have you here in Washington, especially after the very both memorable and positive visit to Port of Spain last year. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Secretary Blinken. I am very pleased that in the very hectic schedule that you are engaged in, that you would have made the time to receive my delegation. The relationship between the United States, Trinidad and Tobago, and the wider CARICOM is extremely important to us, and we keep emphasizing that it's also important to the United States. The U.S. is our major trading partner, and with a lot of our citizens residing in and working and living in the United States, I think every time I go to an office on these trips, I meet some national from Trinidad and Tobago, or whose parentage is of Trinidad and Tobago in the United States. We are very proud of our international obligations that we meet, and we keep emphasizing that we might be small, but we are not insignificant, and we acknowledge our trading relations, our diplomatic situations, and the challenges and the curbing that you mentioned. So in recent years, we are happy that we've raised issues with you, and you have in fact been taking them on board. The safety and security challenges are extremely important to us, and the energy security are matters of day-to-day conversations, and we believe that you are part of that, and thanks for being a part of it.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Very good. Well, good morning, everyone. And it's a great pleasure for me to receive Prime Minister Rowley here in Washington, especially after the very warm hospitality I was shown in Port of Spain last year. Trinidad and Tobago is a vital partner for the United States, and we are working together in many areas, including to advance energy security and climate resilience, something that the people of Trinidad and Tobago feel very strongly. And we're doing this in particular under the United States-Caribbean Partnership to address the climate crisis, which is a vital initiative that our countries are engaged in. We're partnering as well to fight violent crime and firearms trafficking, and this is a priority for the work that we're doing, as well as, of course, seeking and building up prosperity and opportunity in the region as a whole. We have vital work that we're doing as well to address other regional challenges, whether it's in Venezuela or whether it's in Haiti, but in all of these areas and others, including the strengthening of our own bilateral ties, which I've been very, very pleased to see over the last couple of years. This really is a vital partnership, and I'm just grateful, Prime Minister, to have you here in Washington, especially after the very both memorable and positive visit to Port of Spain last year. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Secretary Blinken. I am very pleased that in the very hectic schedule that you are engaged in, that you would have made the time to receive my delegation. The relationship between the United States, Trinidad and Tobago, and the wider CARICOM is extremely important to us, and we keep emphasizing that it's also important to the United States. The U.S. has made it a major trading partner.
All right, go ahead.
I want to say to you, but what if I know something? And last year, Rowley and keep a crime symposium in the Hayata thing, where they had different prime ministers also from the Caribbean, and they started about talk Americans, Rowley started about talk Americans, say that all the guns and things that coming from America is what having the problem with crime in Trinidad, and Rowley bad talk America last year.
Yeah.
How come these people are allowing this man to sit down before them after he said last year that their guns are coming out from America, that intention that is the problem with crime we have in here?
Because
how?
The same university
I feel these people that this man for hardcore.
Well said, well said, well said. I can't say anymore. I can't add to that. I can't add to that. I can't do that.
Well, you know, the only thing I could do right know, honestly speaking, is just wait for the fireworks. Look on and listen.
Yes, yes.
And with a lot of our citizens residing in and working and living in the United States, I think every time I go to an office on these trips, I meet some national from Trinidad and Tobago, or whose parentage is of Trinidad and Tobago in the United States. We are very proud of our international obligations that we meet, and we keep emphasizing that we might be small, but we are not insignificant. And we acknowledge our trading relations, our diplomatic situations, and the challenges and the Caribbean that you mentioned. So in recent years, we are happy that we've raised issues with you, and you have in fact been taking them on board. The safety and security challenges are extremely important to us, and the energy security are matters of day-to-day conversations, and we believe that you are part of that, and thanks for being a part of it.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yes. Do we have any more chairs, please? People up at the back, we have some extra chairs. We'll put them out front. So if you could make your way down, I will give you a few minutes. Can we get some more chairs out, please? We have to thank all of you for coming out. We have a full house overflowing. Johnny's telling me we need a bigger space next time. The bigger space next time, Johnny, will be all of Trinidad and Tobago as we go to fight crime throughout the country. So can we put some chairs out if we have more?
Well, of course, people...
some of you very kind gentlemen can help us.
Yeah, you have it. With respect, of course, to why Rowley was up there trying to get back that clip so that you will get an appreciation better as to how he was able to manipulate his way there. But of course, as the caller rightly said, a hard fall. You see, he reminds me, let me say this finally, Rowley reminds me of Hitler, Mussolini, Robert Mugabe, all of these fellas who, of course, were able to find their way on the international stage and then get a sudden, never to return fall. Never to return fall, because the weight of the evil that they would kill and deception that they would, of course,
to welcome all these gentlemen and ladies from the OWTU. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for joining us.
And then they betray them. Well, Rowley seemed to be
that's it for the chairs?
The makings of such an individual.
Well, I'm sorry.
I thought was important. Whilst all of that was happening.
Okay, thank you all very much. Can we please carry on with the program?
Apparently,
continues to be above
these criminals,
and of course,
when they go on a crime scene, they shoot off sometimes 70, 80 rounds to send fear to the public.
But the house, Sunday, on Monday, the UNC had, of course, their crime people centered and people concerned, all of Trinidad and Tobago's concerned, as far as the crime and criminality is concerned. And therefore, their priority is clear. And I think we should, of course, we'll continue tomorrow, but we will end with this one, where, of course, that crime symposium was taken. Of course, tomorrow again, we will look at why Rowley could have been up there, having done all that evil, and, of course, disrespected and, of course, opposed the Americans. And yet still, of course, it appeared on the surface, but because of geopolitical circumstance, he's tolerated, just as how Maduro is being tolerated. So he reminds me of those individuals who, as the caller rightly said, is headed for a serious fall. That being as it may, let's just go straight.
Everyone, my name is Vanessa Chrissy. I am the wife of Rishi Ryan Nagasa, the late. I don't like to say late, but it's the late Rishi Ryan Nagasa. I'm standing here before you, still waiting for justice for my husband, the Paria tragedy. Next month will be 2 years since this accident happened, and we are still waiting for justice. I stand together with the 4 other families as we want justice for the 4 deceased divers and the lone survivor. February 25th, when this accident happened at Paria, neither LMCS or Paria officials had called me. I got the news from a fisherman out at sea. When this news reached my home, the echoes of my screams were heard throughout my street. My house was filled in minutes. Myself and my family went to Paria. First, we saw the securities. We asked them if there were accidents that happened there, about maybe 3:30 or so, and they said no, there's no accident they know about. Now this there starts with a lie. A few minutes after, I saw an ambulance coming out from Paria. My uncle stopped him, the driver, and he asked about the incident that took place inside Paria and if the men are still in the pipeline. They told them they do not know because Paria officials are keeping everything very secretly, and they just went there and they said, "Ma'am, I would like you to pray and pray a lot."
People, of course, this is too sensitive, too important to just give you a piece of it, but I thought it was necessary. Tomorrow night, of course, we'll explore the whole thing, but of course, I want to tell you it's in the context of crime and criminality, and of course, the symposium that was hosted by the UNC, and of course, the statements made by, of course, the political leader, and that of Johnny Abraham and others. Let us just hear what the political leader had to say as she welcomed, of course, and you will see, of course, it's almost thousands of persons that had to fit there, and they had to look for extra chairs. Watch this.
I fell on my knees, begging God for this not to be real.
Do we have any more chairs, please?
So they're asking for chairs.
People up at the back, we have some extra chairs. We'll put them out front. So if you could make your way down, I will give you a few minutes. Can we get some more chairs out, please? We have to thank all of you for coming out. We have a full house overflowing. Johnny's telling me we need a bigger space next time. The bigger space next time, Johnny, will be all of Trinidad and Tobago as we go to fight crime throughout the country. So can we put some chairs out if we have more?
So look at the crowd, people.
Some of you very kind gentlemen can help us.
Space overflowing. Why is Rowley trying to boost up his ego? Why is Rowley trying to boost up his ego? And of course, wallowing and frolicking with thief money at Balize House. Look, serious business. Serious business on Monday. And after Sunday, having, of course, presided over blood money, he then flies off to the United States. He's really, of course, headed for a very, very, very huge fall. Very huge fall.
Can we pause for a cause to welcome all these gentlemen and ladies from the OWTU? Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for joining us. That's it for the chairs? Well, I'm sorry. Okay.
More people and chairs.
Thank you all very much. Can we please carry on with the program?
Apparently, these criminals, when they go on a crime scene, they shoot off sometimes 70, 80 rounds to send fear to the public and to the police officers. You imagine an officer just involved in one of those dramas. On his way home, nothing to protect himself and his family, not even his neighbors. You tell me if that police officer could function properly. But I am saying, under the leadership of the great opposition leader, Ms. Kamala Percivere, that will change, and it will change shortly. Families have been raped. Their prized possessions have been taken away. You could imagine Mr. Ram Kisoon, who was murdered recently. I am sure that his family is afraid to even stay in their own home. That is how far crime has reached in this country. And then you want to tell me, shut up when I'm talking about crime? I am not going to shut up. I am going to speak out on behalf of the people of this country.
Good night, everyone.
Well, people, of course, we have come to the end of tonight's exercise. We'll see you tomorrow night. And don't forget, of course, that tomorrow morning, the God Report, Andy, Mikey, and myself. And, of course, we come back here tomorrow night at from 8 to 10. And we continue with this and more. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. And have confidence. We will make it, because not only would we have tried, but it's better we try and fail than fail to try. And haven't failed and try and fail, we will succeed. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. Bye-bye.
People need us today more than ever, but in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, it have one little thing that I want you always remember. We could make it if we try, just a little harder. If we just get one more try, life could be much sweeter. The time we analyze just what was the problem. Yes, we start making very positive moves to solve them. We fire the old set on managers we had working, and it's a new group we went and we bring in. And if the goods we require, them new managers not supplying. When election time come back wrong, it's new ones we bring in. But if it's one thing about my people, I could guarantee that they would never ever put party before country. And if the country facing is darkest hour, and our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, it have one little thing that I want you always remember. We could make it if we try, just a little harder. If we just give one more try, life would be much sweeter. The treasury was full and happy time some was enjoying. It's in over and Lavantin for people was living. Now the treasury flat and the country come back the same poor people 10 days and cola they're taking. And without social unrest, poor people paying the price. Because they know for the country nothing too much to sacrifice. And if the country facing its darkest hour, so our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, it have one little thing that I want you always remember. We could make it.